How much does it cost to live in West Hartford, Connecticut? This is a question a lot of buyers think about as they're deciding which town to move in, right? They do their research, they start to fall in love with the town, then they start to run numbers and look at, hey, can we really afford this? Obviously, no one wants to be house poor, where they buy this great house in this great town and then they're living paycheck to paycheck. So I always recommend that families go through this exercise together, before they decide on a town or location. So what I wanted to do in this video is really break down some average costs of living here. Someone that's lived here myself and helped a lot of families come into the town. Give you a broad analysis of what you can expect cost of living wise to see, hey, is this in range or are we stretching ourselves too thin, right? So you can, plan accordingly for you and your family. Now, one caveat before we get into this, obviously this cost of living stuff, it could go in a lot of different directions, right? It depends on a lot of factors, right? It depends on what type of home, how expensive the home. It depends on where you shop for groceries, what type of car you like. I'm doing some average numbers, some really, really broad numbers to give you an idea, but obviously this is very situational and specific to each family. So these numbers are a good start, but before you make any decisions for yourself and your family, obviously go in much more in depth and run all your numbers before you decide if this is right or wrong for you based on your personal situation. So if you have any questions as you're going through this, if this video sparks a question, big or small, my team and I, we're always happy to help. We get calls, texts, emails all the time from people who watch these videos, so please don't be shy. Let's get into it. First thing I wrote down, median sales price. So if you've watched my market updates in West Hartford, you'll see that the market's been bouncing a bit between 560, 610, somewhere in that range. So for these numbers, I took a $575,000 house. We put 10% down. That left you with a mortgage of about $517,500 if you're putting down $57,500 and then you have some closing costs. So we're looking at a mortgage of about $517,500, which gives you about $4,800 a month if we're breaking everything, right? If we're including the property taxes, you're probably going to be around $1,000 a month, give or take, in this range. You're going to have your water bill, your electric bill, your heat. If we put all that together, they're looking at a couple $100 a month for electric and heat, depending on size of the home. And again, the property taxes depending on the exact number. But as a rough estimate, you're going to be somewhere in that $4,800 a month range for a home. Now, one of my favorite things about West Hartford is there's really something for everyone. There are all types of price points here. There are homes in the low threes, high twos. You can find them every now and then, and it goes all the way up to, multi-million-dollar properties. So, and everywhere in between. So this is just an average, but depending on your price point, obviously this can affect, numbers dramatically. Second thing I wanted to look at is, of course, food. Now, I went off family of four. I went off monthly. Again, this depends where you shop, what type of food you like. There's a lot that goes into this. But family of four nowadays, you're looking anywhere from $900 to $1,300 on the month on average. I would say, me personally, our family, we're actually probably even a little higher than that. But yeah, and if you are, depending on what you eat, you can probably even get a little lower than that. So to give you a range, there's a Stop and Shop here, there's a Whole Foods here, there's a Big Y here. You have a lot of choices. There's a Trader Joe's, there's a Costco. You literally have so many choices. If you're shopping at Whole Foods for a family of four, you're probably up near $2,000 a month, right? If you're shopping at Trader Joe's, you're probably on the lower end, probably at $900, right? So there are some flexibility in these numbers. Just going off averages, anywhere between $1,300 or so, I think gives you a good starting point, and then obviously you can get a little more technical from there. Next thing I wrote down is transportation. Again, this one is tough depending on what type of car you like. If you're buying a used car, is it paid off? Are you getting a brand new car? So there's a huge discrepancy here. But if we're looking at gas, insurance, taxes, for a modest, used car to newer used car, you're looking at anywhere from $375 to $575 a month per car. And in a family of four, you have 2 cars, right? So, West Hartford's property taxes are a little bit on the higher side, so you've got to factor that in as well, as that's going to come on your car tax bill. It's a good thing to be aware of. One of the pros, though, depending on where you work, everything's really close. So, if you are local, your gas bill can be a little lower. Things are walkable. There's bike lanes, so you can, some families I know are really, work hard at walking, biking, and keeping their transportation down. And other families, you got to drive to work. You don't live in town. So, to give you some rough numbers, that $375 to $575 range per car is a good place to start. And then I got some miscellaneous items here, like, your cell phones, your internet, your TV. This is going to range, and again, so many choices here, anywhere from $400 to $800 a month, for a family of four, depending on how many services, how many subscriptions. Definitely on the lower end, it can be done. But as you start getting into, house phone, cell phone, TV service, internet service, it can really add up depending on the packages and things. So somewhere in that $400 to $800 range is a good, barometer to help us tally some numbers here. And then the last thing I wrote down is activities, vacation. Like, what do you do for fun as a family? Most people like to have, a bucket or a savings for, family vacations or the kids' activities. And, I know we like to kind of make some of those, weekend kids' sports trips into little mini vacations, right? So things like that, obviously, you want to account for. Now, the good thing about West Hartford, there are lots of activities, from soccer to softball to baseball to basketball, flag football, right? Like, the list goes on and on. There are activities here. That is great. There is a league for almost everything. Ice skating. You are close to ski slopes, right? So whatever it is, that you're into, there's usually an answer here or close by. However, listen, I mean, that can get expensive. Some of the AAU sports are, $300 a month per kid. Some of the local, town stuff's, a couple $100 a month per kid. And then you have your equipment, your baseball bats and your shin guards and your soccer balls and your sneakers, right? So all that adds up. I would say anywhere from $200 to $500 a month per kid is a good, range for the activities, or if you're a family that wants to use it on vacations as well. That gives you a good barometer to kind of have a little bit of, fun money with each month to plan on. So, I mean, when you add it all together, you're at, say, $7,300 a month to $9,000, $9,300 a month, in terms of average cost of living on your medium, $575,000 home range house, to live here in the town of West Hartford. Now, this is a great starting point. Watching this video may have you say, you know what, when you break it all down like that, this is not the town for me. Or it might say, you know what, let's dive into these numbers a little bit more and see how our family's exact budget stacks up, and if this is the right fit for us. And either way is fine. If there's anything I can do or my team can do to help you, run these numbers, give you more specifics, we are here. If the video is helpful, click subscribe. That tells me that this type of content is something that resonated with you. And be back next week for our next video on the great town of West Hartford.